It was supposed to be a simple meeting. One handshake, one photo, one short conversation. But when Pope Leo I XIV stood before Catherine, Princess of Wales, and gently refused her outstretched hand, the world stopped and watched. What could have been a quiet, respectful exchange suddenly turned into a global moment loaded with meaning. Cameras flashed, headlines screamed, and the internet buzzed. But beneath all the noise, this one small moment held centuries of tension, layers of faith, and centuries-old diplomacy. It wasn't just about one missed handshake. It was about everything that handshake represented, and everything it didn't. To understand why this moment was so powerful, we need to go back, way back, to the 1500s. England and the Vatican weren't always divided. In fact, England used to be a loyal Catholic country. That all changed under King Henry VIII. He wanted a divorce from his wife, Catherine of Aragon, but the Pope at the time refused to allow it. So Henry broke away from the Roman Catholic Church and created his own, the Church of England. It was a decision that rocked the world. From that moment on, the British crown no longer answered to Rome. Henry made himself the supreme head of the new church, and the religious war began. Not with weapons, but with power, belief, and control. For generations, England was torn between Catholic and Protestant rulers. Each monarch enforced their version of faith, often with violence. Catholics were pushed to the edges of society, sometimes punished, even executed. And while Catholicism remained strong across Europe, England stayed firmly independent of the Vatican. The Pope's influence in Britain was gone. For hundreds of years, the royal family avoided official visits to the Vatican. Even conversations between the two institutions were rare, and always tense. Things started to soften in the 20th century. In 1980, Queen Elizabeth II met with Pope John Paul II. It was a historic moment, a step toward reconciliation, but still careful, still symbolic. The Queen was, and always remained, the head of the Church of England. That meant she could never fully recognize the Pope's authority. But the handshake between them that day was a start. Since then, visits have remained rare and highly scripted, every detail planned with purpose. Even small gestures, where people sit, how they dress, who speaks first, are packed with meaning. That's what made the recent meeting between Pope Leo I XIV and Princess Catherine so unique. It wasn't an official state visit. Catherine arrived in Rome quietly, without full diplomatic arrangements. Her team presented it as a personal visit, one of respect and spiritual interest. She wore a simple ivory outfit with soft pearls, carefully chosen to reflect both modesty and quiet strength. This wasn't about showing off royalty. It was about building bridges, at least, that's how it was framed. But Pope Leo I XIV had something different in mind. Just 5 days after being elected to the papacy, he had already shown the world he would be a different kind of leader. Born in Chicago in 1955, he grew up in a working-class Catholic family. He eventually joined the Order of St. Augustine and spent years serving poor communities in Peru. People who knew him described him as humble, thoughtful, and serious about living out the gospel. Before becoming pope, he led as a bishop in northern Peru, and later as a high-ranking official responsible for selecting bishops around the world. He never played politics, never sought the spotlight. That made his rise to the papacy in 2025 surprising to some, but inspiring to many. When he took the name Leo, it was a choice filled with meaning. There had been 13 popes named Leo before him. The most famous, Leo the Great, was known for guiding the church through serious crises in the 5th century. By choosing that name, the new pope sent a quiet message. He was here to lead with strength, humility, and stability. He was not interested in grandeur. And that became clear the moment Princess Catherine stepped into the meeting room. Gone were the gold-trimmed curtains, lavish decorations, or ceremonial flair. The Pope wore his red mote seta over a simple cassock. No golden rings, no ornate staff. Just a man in modest robes, waiting quietly. When Catherine walked in and extended her hand, he did not take it. Instead, he looked at her, eyes calm, and nodded slightly. Catherine's hand hovered in the air for just a moment longer, then fell gracefully to her side. There was no outrage, no embarrassment, just silence. And then, the Pope turned to a nearby table. On it sat a basin, a pitcher, and a towel. That simple setup said more than any words could. It was a reference to the New Testament, where Jesus washes the feet of his disciples before the Last Supper. A gesture of service. A reminder that the greatest among us must serve the rest. The Pope didn't need a handshake to show respect. He used silence, simplicity, and symbols. And in doing so, he challenged the entire world to think about what really matters in leadership. Many watching the moment thought the refusal to shake hands was an insult. But it wasn't. It was a carefully chosen act, full of meaning. It said, "I'm here to serve, not to perform." It also gently reminded everyone of the long-standing differences between Catholicism and Anglicanism. For the Catholic Church, the Pope is the head of all Christians. For Anglicans, the Church of England is independent. That's a divide that still matters, especially during high-profile encounters like this one. Pope Leo I XIV didn't shy away from these issues. He approached them with honesty and grace. Since taking office, he's made it clear he wants to lead a church that focuses more on love, less on power. He eats his meals at simple wooden tables. He sleeps on a plain cot. He's talked openly about empowering local bishops, supporting refugees, protecting the environment, and improving education for priests and nuns. His leadership is about humility, not dominance. And that includes how he interacts with world leaders, even royal ones. Princess Catherine handled the moment with the poise she's known for. She didn't flinch, didn't frown, didn't look confused. She understood the weight of the gesture, and she responded not with pride, but with respect. For someone who has always been under intense public scrutiny, this was another moment where she showed why she's earned the admiration of so many. Grace under pressure. That's what people saw. This encounter stirred emotions around the globe. Some viewed the Pope's action as a snub. Others saw it as a brave expression of faith. But either way, it reminded the world how important symbols still are. In a time where politics, religion, and tradition often clash or get watered down, one man quietly standing his ground sent a powerful message. It also shows that even as institutions change, history still lives in the room. This wasn't just about Catherine and Pope Leo. It was about Henry VIII and the Reformation. About centuries of war, division, and finally, attempts at unity. It was about the future of religion in a modern world. And it was about humility. How the most powerful people can still choose to be servants. By refusing a handshake, Pope Leo I XIV sparked a bigger conversation. About leadership. About tradition. About faith. He showed that sometimes, silence speaks louder than words, and small actions can carry big meaning. Princess Catherine's quiet acceptance of that message showed wisdom, strength, and sensitivity to a situation bigger than herself. The world may never forget this moment. Not because of any scandal, but because of what it represents. Two respected leaders, coming from two powerful but very different institutions, met face to face. And in that quiet moment, history breathed again. If this moment got you thinking, share your thoughts below. What do you believe this gesture really meant? Was it bold? Was it respectful? Should it be remembered as a new beginning or a quiet reminder of old lines? Let's talk about it. And if this story moved you, make sure to hit that like button, subscribe for more, and don't forget to ring the bell so you never miss another story that matters.